You make a massive difference to a tired old car for just £14. You join me back in the UK's cheapest Audi TT Roadster. If you haven't seen the first video where I unveil this car and just how little it cost, you should definitely check that out, and there's a link in the description if you want to catch up. But in this video, it's time to start tidying it up a little bit, and I think we're going to have to start with a really good wash. And once we've done that, I'm going to show you how you can make a massive improvement to any tired old car for just £14. So do make sure you keep watching so that you learn what the secret is there. You can see from these initial photos, this car was absolutely filthy. In fairness, I think the guy that had it before me was just using it as his daily driver, and at this time of year, you know, the wet weather and all that kind of stuff, there's no getting away from the fact that your car just gets absolutely disgusting. And this one certainly was. So it was definitely time for a bit of a clean. Now, I'm going to warn you now, I am no detailer. This is a cheap old car, and so there's not going to be any, you know, 4 bucket methods or anything like that here. If you are obsessed with detailing, if it's something that's close to your heart, fair play to you. I mean, I've got massive amount of respect for the guys and girls that can spend huge amounts of time doing detailing, following the right process and all that stuff. It's an absolute art form, but that's probably not quite what we're going to be doing here. So if you're likely to be offended by that, this might not be the video for you. But to start us off, we had to have something to just break through some of that initial dirt that was absolutely everywhere. Clearly, it hadn't been washed for quite a while, and so I needed something to get things moving a bit, because you're never going to just jet wash all this off. It's not going to move. So using some traffic film remover, it seemed like the obvious thing to do. Traffic film remover, obviously quite a harsh chemical, not something you want to be using on your car regularly every day, but when it's as filthy as this, it seems like a really good place to start. So we've got one of these big pump sprayer things, and I've mixed it quite strong. So I've mixed it like 50-50, which is a lot stronger than what it says on the label you should do. But this is just cheap car plan trade stuff from Amazon. There's a link in the description if you're interested in it for your car. But all of the reviews said it's really weak. You need to mix it quite strong. It says on the label you can mix it up to like 50-1. There's no way that's going to cut the mustard with the car that's dirty. So we sprayed that on. Let that dwell for a little bit, basically for the time it took to go round the rest of the car, and covered everything with it. I didn't use too much on the roof. It was a little bit sparing on the fabric roof. I think we will do a proper clean of that convertible roof at some point later, because you probably need to actually give it a real good sort of dedicated clean itself. There's various products out there for dealing with sort of cabriolet fabric roofs, and that's definitely what's going to be required here. So a little bit on the roof on the really stubborn bits, but I tried not to go too mad with it. And then you just jet wash it all off, and instantly you can see the massive transformation. All that ingrained dirt and some of the brake dust on the wheels and all that stuff just completely washes away, and you start to see that there is actually some paint underneath all that muck. That was, of course, just the first step of the process. Next up, I focused on the wheels. I've got this cheap Amazon Basics wheel cleaner. It smells horrible, but it seems to do the job. I couldn't find a proper wheel brush, so we've just got one of these sort of, I mean, they look like detailing brushes, but they're actually just the brushes people use for putting tyre soap on tyres when they're fitting tyres. They were a lot cheaper than detailing brushes. As I said, not a detailer. But sprayed the wheels with this Amazon Basics alloy wheel cleaner, give it a bit of an agitation, and then by the time I've gone round all 4 wheels, you can then start jet washing that off, and immediately the wheels actually start to look silver again. They'll probably need a second going over, and actually a stiffer wheel brush would do absolute wonders for them. Loads of baked on brake dust, but just making them silver again instead of brown is a massive, massive improvement, and I'm really happy with how they come out. Next up then, this is where we maybe do cross the border into detailing a little bit, as I break out the snow foam cannon to give it a good going over with snow foam. Now the purpose of snow foam is to loosen any of that further dirt that's on there, you know, so the TFR takes off the worst of it, but the snow foam breaks up some of the other stuff that's on there, and it is good to use that before you start rubbing the car and actually doing a contact wash. As I said, some people probably think that is a bit too much like detailing, but we went with it anyway. I don't know if it was the mix that was a bit rubbish, or this cheap snow foam cannon, or my pressure washer doesn't seem brilliant. I don't know what was going on, but as you can see, the snow foam isn't particularly thick. It normally goes on like really, really thick. And actually, I've used this cannon before and it was better. Don't know if it's maybe like a water pressure issue here or something, but Anyway, the gist of it is you put the snow foam on, you leave it for a little bit to dwell, and then you wash it off. And now you really see a difference, because a lot of that dirt that was just sort of lingering is almost gone. And actually, having just done those sort of 3 steps, the TFR, the wheel cleaner and the snow foam, you could almost get away with not bothering to wash it at all. The camera just stopped working while I was filming that last bit, so we're going to have to do that again. As you can see, the roof works though, because I managed to put it back up, so good news indeed. The next step before a contact wash, which might sound a little bit detailing-y, is to go around all the bits where dirt might collect that might be a little bit awkward to get into with like a sponge or a wash mitt. So I take some all-purpose cleaner and a brush and just go around like where the mirror meets the body, where the indicators are on the sides, and all those kind of awkward little bits. There was a bit along the back of the spoiler that was really bad because there was loads of dirt in there. So just make it a little bit easier to wash later on. Once that's done, on to the contact wash. Now, there's no 2-bucket method or anything like that here. I couldn't really find a second bucket, so we went with 1 bucket, a wash mitt, and some Autoglym Pure shampoo, which is my favourite car shampoo because it doesn't have any wax or anything like that in it. I like using that when I'm washing my Citroen Ami as well, which has plastic body panels. I find the like standard sort of wash and wax type stuff leaves it really streaky, whereas because this is just shampoo with nothing else in it, it does the job really nicely. We give it a bit of a wash. Again, detailing people probably going to be horrified by the technique here because I'm just kind of wanting to get it done. And I think it looks all the better for it though. Looks really, really good having done that. Pretty much this is where the washing sort of ends. It really needs a good polish and a wax and all that stuff, but didn't have time for that today. The next step will probably be to do something about the convertible roof. So it's got a bit of moss in it and a bit dirt, and I gave it a little bit of a going over with the TFR and the snow foam and stuff, but it needs a really good clean. So I'm going to get something specialised for convertible roofs. We're going to clean that and then we're going to treat it to make it more waterproof and so that the dirt shouldn't stick to it as much going forward as well. So we'll do another video about sort of revitalising old convertible roofs, but for now I think that brings the washing to an end. One thing I like to do after washing is get some Tyre Gel on the tyres, so we do that. I use the Meguiar's Endurance Tyre Gel, which you can buy in Halfords and stuff, and I've used that for years. I find it's one of the longer lasting products out there. There's probably better out there these days, but this is cheap, it lasts quite a while, it's easy enough to put on, and it does just add that extra something. I think I could probably do with one of those brushes people use to like scrub tyres before putting that on though, because as it's now dried it doesn't look amazing, but it looks a little bit better than it did, so I'm happy enough with that. And I think you'll agree that this car is absolutely transformed for a wash, and I reckon I've doubled its value just by washing it. But there's one last step that I always do with an old car like this that makes it look just that little bit better. So for £14, I ordered a new set of number plates on Amazon. And I know a lot of people don't care about the number plates that are on their car. It's the last thing they think about. Hell, some people don't even know what the registration number of their car is. But there is no better way in my mind to cheaply transform a car from completely unloved looking like this was, where the plate was all delaminating and damaged and just looked pretty horrible, even to the point where it was an advisory on the last MOT. And we can very quickly, very cheaply make that look absolutely brand new, and it looks perfect. I just drilled and screwed the plates on because that's how the previous ones were on, but they came with sticky pads. You could have used those. I find one sort of top tip with them, if you're going to use sticky pads, is you need to use a heat gun to heat them up before you, so heat up the body, heat up the pads on the back of the plate, and then push them on. If you don't do that, your plate will probably fall off. So if you're wondering why you've used sticky pads to replace your number plate and then it's fallen off shortly afterwards, the answer will be that you didn't use any heat. So you definitely need to bear that in mind. But none of that this time, just screwed them on, and I think you will agree they look absolutely fantastic. And that for me it has to be the best, easiest repair or enhancement you can make to any car for £14. I don't think there's anything you can possibly do that's so cheap that absolutely transforms how a car looks, and so it would definitely always be my recommendation. I think I need to do something about that TT badge on the back as well though. You'll see that the silver bit on the second T has actually fallen off, so it's supposed to just be 2 chrome T's but with a red sort of outline, and one of them's gone. Now I had a look and they actually seem quite hard to get a hold of. It looks like you can't get them from the main dealer anymore. I found someone in Italy selling them, but by the time you pay for postage and then the freedom tax on top of that, I think that'll actually be quite expensive just for a badge, so that might need to wait. In the next video about this car, the UK's cheapest Audi TT, we're going to have a look at some of the mechanical issues that this has. Now, it runs and drives pretty well. I've done about 370 miles in it since I got it, and actually on the whole it's pretty well together, but it does have a few little niggles that could be sorted out. And we'll go through those in turn and work out what the plan is for them going forward. But I thought before we did any of that, it was definitely worthwhile giving this thing a clean and seeing just what was hiding underneath all that dirt. And I must say, I'm really quite happy with it. It looks really quite good. There's a little bit of paint flaking on the rear diffuser by the exhaust, and there's a little mark on the front and stuff like that, but there's nothing too major. I think for the age of it, it's actually pretty well together. So I'm really quite happy with that. But make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on, and join me next time where we look at some of the mechanical maladies that's waiting in this £590 Audi TT. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.